Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and let's start this show off on a creepy note. Here we go. From the World Economic Forum.
We're here today to share the findings of the World Economic Forum's Global Security Outlook Report 2023. This is a result of research in collaboration with the forum's communities and our partner Accenture, in which we've interviewed and sought input from over 300 executives globally. The most striking finding that we found is that 93% of cyber leaders and 86% of cyber business leaders believe that the geopolitical instability makes a catastrophic cyber event likely in the next 2 years.
When I hear that, what I hear is, all right, our media narrative carriers, start talking about an imminent cyber attack now, and then we'll get one pretty soon. I mean, these people are freaking creepy. You know what it reminds me of? Remember when Jim Rickards, who used to be in that three-letter agency right there, said this?
Zhu is a brilliant guy, like Bernanke, and he's pleasant and well-meaning. There's no doubt in my mind that he's also a member of the elite network preparing to impose ICE 9 on millions of Americans. But I wasn't done with my research. I have since met with dozens of senior officials, intelligence analysts, and former Wall Street colleagues. My quest led to a final meeting, a face-to-face summit with the head of Bilderberg. We met at Rockefeller Center in Manhattan, and he was very eager to get my take on the euro as a currency. I was happy to provide it, of course, in exchange for some valuable intelligence. As I say in my new book, he did not have horns. In fact, he gave me a nice gift when we parted ways, a blue Swedish vase. I keep it in my writing studio at my home in Connecticut. But my point is, I came away from all three meetings convinced of one thing. When the next crisis hits, the elites are planning to freeze the financial system, and they'll replace it with a new system, one not based on the U.S. dollar. When that happens, we'll wake up to a very strange and disturbing new reality.
And for our viewers that are watching today, what might their reality look like that morning? How does this manifest?
First, they'll have gone to bed knowing that a massive financial crisis was underway. But when they wake up, they'll find it has worsened and the contagion has spread worldwide. When they go to withdraw money, their ATM will say closed temporarily. When they go to sell stocks, their account will say transaction not available. When they go to their local business, that business will only accept cash if it's open. As citizens realize apart from their money, riots will erupt. It's going to get really bad quickly.
How would such a freeze work? And wouldn't that be highly illegal?
Well, illegal technically.
All right, you've seen enough. The point is, folks, I've said it a bunch of times, they had the bailouts in 2018 and they learned that they could never have to kneel to a lunatic, Looney Tune, crazy nut like Nancy Pelosi in order to get their bailout for all their friends. This time they'll do bail-ins, cyber attack, whatever, close the banks. So I can't tell you what to do because I'm not a financial advisor, but what I'm doing, I'm making sure that I have plenty of cash, physical gold. I've got crypto on my own wallets, my Ledger Nano S's, and I've got a Glen account so that I can have gold inside of that I can actually buy things with. I can spendable gold with a debit MasterCard that I have. This is not a bank account. It's separate from the banks. And that's why they're one of my sponsors. Links in the top of the description. Go check it out. Now, eGrag Crypto XRP rode to $27 via 3 W patterns. In following quick thread, I'm monitoring 3 different W formations being sculpted. Each is on a different time frame, but it is providing a view how XRP price potentially can go to $27. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You can go to @eGrag Crypto and you can go all the way down the thread. Anytime I see things like this, there's some people out there that are into the charting of all this, and so that's why every once in a while I touch on these things so you can know who's talking about it and who you can go look at their charting and all that. Okay, J.C. Collins had the same impression of yesterday's DOJ announcement that I did. The DOJ announcement of an announcement today looks like market manipulation. They literally announced that they were going after some Russian exchange that I had never even heard of. I've been here since 2013. I had never even heard of it, but they announced it ahead of time like it was going to be some massive thing, like they're going to take down a Coinbase or something, and it was some random Russian exchange. It looked like they were looking for the headline. I agree with him. Here's Brad Garlinghouse with the guess this guy's the CEO, managing director of Lulu Financial Holdings, which is a Ripple partner. And so then there's this, James Phelan, the SEC's filed an opposition to third-party A's motion to redact all references to third-party A as an entity and propose redaction by third party. And then he also has another one. Ripple opposes the motion by investment banker declarant, which seeks to shield from public view his name, position, and employer because he voluntarily submitted the declaration in support of the SEC's summary judgment motion. We, on this channel, want to know who this investment banker declarant is. I've seen whispers of people that thought it was Mike Novogratz, but I don't have any way of proving that. I sure hope it is because, man, I would love to be able to show that. Then Charles Gasparino has gone to the other side. He, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, he's been tweeting all kinds of negative things towards the Ripple case. And then he does this. The more I delve into SBF implosion and hear how he met with SEC, not once, but twice, we don't know. Twice is what's in the public calendar. Gary Gensler is hiding August all the way through December. He's hiding all of those calendars. Not only that, but we now know that Gary Gensler, if he doesn't want you to see something on his public calendar, he'll just scrub it, because he did that with his meeting with Soros and that woman who used to be married, who is married to the past president and crazy lunatic whack job Nancy Pelosi. He had a meeting with them and he scrubbed it from his public calendar. It was only found out through Freedom of Information Act requests. So, he says it's hard not to realize that the SEC really botched its regulatory. No, they didn't botch anything. This was all intentional. And going after Ripple over unregistered XRP when serious issues of potential fraud always resided with exchanges. All right. Now, Eleanor Terrett, I think she has awoken. She tweeted this out the other day. The new Madoff Netflix show is blowing my mind. I knew the basic premise of what he did, not the significant lengths he went in order to cover up the fraud. More than a few parallels between SBF, FTX, including a very blindsided SEC. Then she finishes watching it and she says, having finished the series, I very much take back the SEC being blindsided comment. Consider my mind officially blown. Folks, if you study just about all of the frauds that have gone on in the last 20 years, it looks much more like the regulators knew about it. Many of these major banks knew about it to the point where it's almost like they're involved in it, folks. I say almost just because I don't want to go there. But you know what I really think, don't you? Now, speaking of, Jamie Dimon was on talking about frauds and Ponzi schemes with Squawk Box from Davos today.
What we're talking about, we pretty much always have some crypto conversation with you. I'm just curious, because I don't think we've talked to you since...
I think all that's been a waste of time, and why you guys waste any breath on it is totally beyond me.
Because you just think the whole thing just is
going to zero?
Going to zero and it's fake?
Bitcoin itself is a hyped up fraud. It's a pet rocket.
You're back to that?
Yeah,
really?
Of course, yeah.
Well, right here, I do agree with him in that Bitcoin is hyped up. There is no utility there. I do agree with that on this, but I think that what he's up to here is a bigger thing. I think that he's, as a lot of these guys are, he's trying to create a narrative.
So what do you make then of BlackRock and other firms that are investing in infrastructure?
No, that's different. Blockchain is a technology ledger system that we use to move information. We've used it to do overnight.
It's okay for us to use it, and just not you.
intraday repo. We've used it to move money.
Right.
So that is a ledger. That's a technology ledger type of thing that we think will be deployable. Remember, we've been talking about that for 12 years too, and very little has been done.
There's some tokens that I agree with you on, but Bitcoin's based on a distributed ledger. Yeah, it has all the characteristics of a store of value. It's immutable. It's scarce.
Totally untrue. It's
21 million.
Well, yeah, really. How do you know it's going to stop at 21 million?
Because
I've mentioned this to people
Satoshi.
Too. Everyone says that. Well, maybe it's going to get to 21 million, and Satoshi's picture is going to come up and laugh at you all.
I think Jamie Dimon knows exactly who Satoshi is. I think that probably a few thousand of all these Wall Street people and some of the head people in crypto have always known who Satoshi is. That's the reason I stay away from Bitcoin, because I don't buy it. I think they've all known. I don't just think that. I think that a lot of the Wall Street people and the government are the ones that were behind its creation as a test net. And folks, what he just said, he's looking right into the camera. Don't take those words lightly.
Say, no.
You know what else I believe? I believe that Wall Street and all these government types, knowing that it was going to be a prototype, also took advantage of manipulating markets for all these years, the however many years Bitcoin and Ethereum have been around. I believe they knew there was a window of time that needed to be tested, these things that don't work, that have no utility like Bitcoin. And I think that they said, well, hey, but in the meantime, we can make a lot of money. Market manipulation, okay? Now, I won't play the rest of that, but you don't have to take my word for it. This is from the Glenn Beck show 2 or 3 years ago.
Extremely egregious. So on September 12th, Jamie Dimon says Bitcoin is a fraud. He says he'll fire any one of his traders buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin drops 24%. When Jamie Dimon speaks, people listen. So that weekend, we found out that the largest buyer of a Bitcoin fund that's in Europe that buys physical Bitcoin, right? The largest buyer was Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan. And that's not illegal.
He says it's a fraud.
It says he'll fire anyone that buys it. Yes.
And at the same time, his company is buying it.
His company is buying it.
So it's just, so unethical.
Wrong word. All right. Now, let's remind you, and I'm reminding all of the quote journalists over there at CNBC. I said, hey, here's a wild and crazy journalism idea. Why not ask Jamie Dimon why he banked the Bitcoin fraud early on? This is right here. This is Mt. Gox. This is the Wayback Machine. Purchasing Bitcoins has never been easier. Starting today, all verified Mt. Gox users based in the USA will be able to purchase Bitcoin via cash deposit at any of the many Chase bank branches across the country. With over 1,500 branches, Chase is an ideal partner for Mt. Gox in the USA. Folks, now think about this for a minute. To this day, banks have closed people's accounts for buying and things on Coinbase even. How in the hell was Mt. Gox able to work out a banking deal with JP Morgan way back then? This is back November 26, 2011. The only way is if JP Morgan was involved in all this from the very beginning, folks, and had their buddies in the government knowing about it too. It's the only freaking way. It's the only way. Now, if you know how right now their whole narrative is, oh, FTX is a fraud, therefore crypto is a fraud. It's not about crypto, folks. Everywhere you look, all these frauds we've seen over the last 20 or 30 years, what's the commonality? The commonality is regulators who, quote, didn't see it. They just missed it, okay? And it's the big Wall Street banks like JP Morgan right there in the middle of it. This right here, I put out about a week ago. This is a clip from the new, you can go on Netflix. I encourage everyone to watch it, the Madoff documentary. In this clip, they point blank, not my words, at the very beginning, let me show you what she says. I'm not going to play it because there's music and I don't want to get copyright. She says, but Madoff could never have perpetuated the fraud that he perpetuated. And then she goes on, had he not had the complicity of JP Morgan Chase right there. And if you watch this 2 minute and 46 second clip, it becomes very, very clear. Well, here's the thing. That's not the only one. Remember MF Global? Remember when Gary Gensler was the chairman of the CFTC and his mentor from Goldman Sachs, John Corzine, is the CEO of MF Global and presides over a $1 billion Ponzi scheme, or he's commingling customer funds, and he never goes to jail, by the way. And Gary Gensler basically recuses himself from the situation. They say like 85 or plus percentage of everything going on in MF Global had to do with the CFTC, but Gary Gensler had a closed door meeting with the SEC and said, "Oh, I'm going to let you handle this because I can't have my fingerprints on it," basically is what that means. And guess who else was involved in that? Listen to what this man says right out of the gate. This is MF Global.
JP Morgan had its fingers all over this bankruptcy. So JP Morgan was the primary lender to MF Global. They lent them $1.3 billion. 1.3. What about Jamie Dimon? Sorry.
He's the chairman of that wonderful institution.
Yes, he is. And he's not a big fan of mine. But
I bet he's not. This is one of the guys, one of the attorneys that was in charge of getting to the bottom of and getting the money back in MF Global. Then we got this. Warren Davidson. Sounds like a familiar story. Gemini reportedly works with the SEC for 17 months. By the way, I don't ever remember Warren Davidson tweeting out anything specific about Ripple, like he's concerned about that lawsuit being dropped. Reportedly works with the SEC for 17 months, and the SEC slams them with a surprise lawsuit. If Gary Gensler was serious about helping investors, he would stop regulation by selective enforcement. And I said, when is that new day coming, Tom Emmer, Patrick McHenry, Warren Davidson? That's what they said was going to happen. Then we've got Gary Gensler. He wants information from a whistleblower who knows of possible securities law violations can be among the most powerful tools in the law enforcement toolkit for the SEC. Well, great, because I've got a whistleblower alert for about the 100th time, Gary Gensler. I can only blow this thing so hard. We've got Bill Hinman, who was at the SEC 2017 to 2018. He meets with A16Z, Consensus, Ethereum. June 14th, he gives us a speech giving Ethereum a free pass. 2017 to 2020, he's collecting $15 million from Simpson Thatcher. He unretires in 2020 and becomes a senior advisor to a new $2 billion crypto fund at A16Z. Okay. And he was told by the SEC ethics office, was it, not to meet with his law firm partners or whatever, and he did it anyway while he was at the SEC. Not to mention my whistleblower alert on Joseph Lubin. Joseph Lubin created a token factory. It was called the Token Foundry, Gary. You can check it out. He shut it down now, I guess, because he was scared. He also, right now, is doing staking. They're doing Ethereum staking. There are all kinds of things that you could get right now. My whistleblower alert. I would love my reward. I'm ready for it. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that these people, these regulators in Wall Street, banks and all, they stink to high heaven, and they have the gall to be pointing at all of these people while they themselves are up to their eyeballs in all of these frauds and Ponzi schemes.